the most important reason to even care about this at all, other than the fact that it could be one of the most important things to care about in life, is that what we don't realize is the path of truth and understanding the nature of reality is the path to unconditional happiness. This is just a consequence that we face when we understand the nature of reality, is that we end up understanding the nature of what we are. And by understanding the nature of what we are, we find that we are happiness itself. So what we have here is a very simple diagram. We have consciousness. Consciousness is shining in its pure condition, which is like white light. If you imagine this spectrum in reference to light, we can kind of interpret it to what it actually is, which is consciousness. So imagine consciousness is like white light. Now, in our normal day-to-day reality, if you shine white light through a prism, if you don't know what a prism is, this is like a piece of glass, right? If you shine white light through a piece of glass, a triangular piece of glass, this type of piece of glass, it comes out with the colors of the rainbow. Now, we've all been shown this in primary school. So if there is any 10-year-olds watching, then well, my age rating is set to 18 anyway, so there won't be. But this diagram is an accurate model for something actually real that we can see. Now, what we don't realize is that this is actually a blueprint and a metaphor for how reality actually takes shape to begin with. So if you think of light, it is invisible. You cannot see light. If we were to shine, I mean, the entirety of the air right now around me, or the space around me, is filled with light. But when there's nothing there to shine on, the white appears invisible. You can't see it, right? So light is essentially an invisible thing that makes things visible. Crazy, right? And it is completely, you could say, absolute. Now notice that just because light is invisible, it doesn't mean it isn't something. You see, just because we cannot see it doesn't mean it isn't something. Because clearly when we shine light through the prism, we get all the things that are inside it. What is inside it? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. We get the colors of the rainbow. So innate inside this invisible light that we cannot see is a lot of things that we can see and that are actually visible and that we can actually experience. Isn't that very interesting? So now take this into the analogy now that I'm sharing. Imagine that consciousness, what's consciousness? Consciousness is simply that which is hearing my words right now in your direct experience, not as an idea, not your thoughts, not your feelings, the thing that's aware of your thoughts and feelings. Most people haven't really become aware of that before. We're just going to become aware of that. Right now, you are having an experience, and it's you that's experiencing it. And the one that's experiencing it is conscious. You are aware of your experience. So imagine that consciousness in its pure condition is like white light. It's similar to what white light is like. Now, when you shine that pure consciousness through a prism, this is what we call the mind. If you shine consciousness through the prism of a mind, you get the colors of life. What are the colors of life? Thoughts, feelings, sensations, perceptions. In other words, touch, taste, smell, sound, and hear. They're the 5 colors of the physical rainbow of life. And there's obviously more colors, like maybe you could say feelings and thoughts and things like that. So what you have then is literally the embodiment of life. What does life consist of? Life doesn't consist of people and things. Actually, what life consists of is perceptions and thoughts. And those perceptions and thoughts can be broken down into sensations, sights, smells, touches, and tastes. Everything you interact with, you don't interact with the physical world, you interact with your perceptions. Your perceptions are your experience. Now, your perceptions create the experience that you're having of people, things, objects, trees, because you have thoughts. Those thoughts are like the knives and forks of reality. You could say that the perception is like the fork. It pins it down, and then thought is like a knife. It cuts out one seamless perfection of reality into individual segments. That's what thought and perception do. It's like eating a cake. and then we eat it. What do we eat it with? Consciousness, right? So we're absorbing the world. We're creating thought, perception, which creates life. These are the colors of the rainbow. Pure consciousness, which has everything in it, shines through the prism of the mind, which is uh, a device that kind of like transcribes reality. And then this is the world that we experience. Sight, smells, touches, tastes, and there's a lot more. This is a relative example. There would be more colors, for example, more senses that this is just one of the bandwidths, like we have light spectrums, right? This is one of the light spectrums of reality. It's the third dimension, and this is planet Earth that we seem to live on. Now, we want to upgrade this analogy a little bit. This is broken down quite differently, right? It's almost like there's three different things. There's consciousness, there's mind, and there's life. Well, this analogy is just to get you to open up to this understanding of consciousness, mind, and life. Consciousness, in its pure condition, never leaves its pure condition. This is the craziest thing. Imagine light. When you shine light through the prism, you might see the color red, like we do right here. But does that make the red not still just light? Does the light become red? No, the light is still light. Nothing changes of the light other than the way we see it. So likewise, nothing changes of pure consciousness other than the way we see it. And the way we see it is broken down because what we do is create a limited, finite point of view. If you want to read, if you want to watch a movie, if you want to see a star, if you want to see an atom, you must limit your vision. If I wanted to see an atom right now, I better be looking a little bit closer than where I am, right? Because I see everything right now, right? In my field of vision, relatively speaking. But if I wanted to see something very specific, I have to limit what I'm seeing. If I want to read a book, I can't read the whole book in one. I have to read word for word, page by page. I have to be very narrow, focused, and specific. So in the same way, if the totality of consciousness, now consciousness is absolute. So consciousness, like light, it cannot be destroyed. You cannot create it or destroy it. It's like energy. It's the nature and the background in which reality is created. So when we think of consciousness, we think of it as something that exists inside our head. But no, consciousness is the entirety of this absolute image and the entirety of our absolute creation, and we're sharing the same consciousness. So if this consciousness is absolute, that means that it cannot be created or destroyed, which means it doesn't start or end, which means that it is also everything that could ever potentially be and nothing at the same time. So what this means is that if it wants to have an experience, now I'm being poetic here, consciousness doesn't want to have it doesn't sit there going, oh, it's 5 o'clock, let me have an experience. It doesn't think like that. It doesn't even think, right? So what we're really seeing is actually the reality and how it is just isness, the isness of it is just already perfect. And this is something we have to accept, is the perfection of reality completely just being what it is without anything else, without any reason for it. So if it wants to have an experience, it must limit itself, just like we do. If we want to watch a movie, we have to limit ourselves. We have to sit on the sofa. We have to turn the TV on. We have to look at the screen, you see? If we want to read a book, we have to limit ourselves. We have to open a page. We have to look at the word. We have to read the next one. To have an experience of something, there must be a limitation. Consciousness creates this limitation called the mind in order to have what we could say life as we know it. So this is how reality is created. It is one absolute totality, limiting itself into a finite form. And the finite form is what we call a mind, which is simply a point of view. Imagine an ocean. In the ocean, there's a whirlpool in the ocean. The whirlpool is not separate from the ocean. It's just a localized part of the ocean. So now this is where this analogy breaks down in this, where it kind of breaks down this metaphor for this diagram. Because this prism is not separate from the consciousness. We could say that the prism is actually made of the light of consciousness and it refracts itself. This is getting more technical. Consciousness refracts itself into the colors of life. So just like color is not separate from the white, invisible, absolute light, so too is not life separate from the absolute consciousness that we are currently experiencing and that is experiencing it. So we could say that in essence, everything and everyone shares the same source. And this is a big thing to experience and a big thing to open up to. But this is truly what and where love comes from. Love, the reason we love people is because we realize that at our heart, we share the same being. And that being is the one listening to these words right now. So you could say that I am basically almost you from another timeline, from another universe, sharing this understanding with you. And me from other universes share this understanding with me on a relative level, with this body mind, with this perspective. And we are slowly waking up to the nature of reality one step at a time. And what happens when this is fully integrated, fully understood? Unconditional happiness. It's freedom. Why? Because we're no longer trapped to the same reality. We're no longer stuck in the same place. And the same things in reality no longer cause suffering for us because it's like realizing you're in a game. We're not in a game. This isn't like a game thing, but let's use it as a close metaphor. It's like realizing you're not the character in a game. How much freedom are you then going to have to take all the risks, do all the things you love, and live the life that you really want? It's like going from playing Sims and staying and playing small to playing GTA and doing whatever the hell you want, obviously, to the extent that we embody this understanding with love. I have a retreat that's happening at the end of the year in Marbella in Spain. This is where I share this understanding with people and where we can actually integrate this on a lived experience. I also have a free community as well if you'd like to join that. The applications for the retreat are at the bottom. You'll see that in the description. And that's all I have for you today. Have an amazing day, guys. Take care.